I want to start by telling you what the water looked like when we arrived. It was the clearest water I had ever seen in my life. You could look straight down from the dock and see the bottom white rock and dark seagrass, 8, maybe 10 feet down, every detail sharp. The kind of water you see in travel photographs and assume has been edited. It hadn't. It was just like that, perfect and still, and so blue, it almost hurt. I think about that water every day now, what it looked like then, what I know about it now. My name is Liam. I'm 29 years old, and I'm going to tell you about the week my two best friends walked into the Adriatic Sea and didn't come back, and why I'm the only one who can tell you what really happened on that island. Connor was 31. He'd been my closest friend since we were 15, the kind of friendship where you don't really remember a time before it. He was the one who made things happen. Holidays, plans, group chats that actually got replied to. If Connor said we were doing something, we were doing it. That was just the way it worked. Nate was 27. He'd come into the group later, a friend of a friend at university who never really left. Funny in that effortless way some people are, where they don't even try, and somehow everything they say lands perfectly. He had a way of making you feel like wherever you were was exactly the right place to be. I was the cautious one, the one who read the fine print, the one who, when Connor found the listing, said, "Let me look at it properly before we book." He found it in late spring, a private island off the Dalmatian coast, not a resort, not a shared rental, an actual private island. One house, no other buildings, no other guests, a wooden dock, a terrace with a stone table, a garden that ran down to the water on 3 sides. The listing said the island was accessible only by the host's boat. The nearest town was 4 miles across the water. It said, "Complete privacy. Complete silence. The island is yours entirely." The price was higher than our usual trips, but not unreachable. The reviews were good, a dozen of them, all 5 stars, all saying things like, "Once in a lifetime," and "We never wanted to leave." I read every review. I noticed, looking back, that none of them mentioned returning. At the time, I thought I was just being paranoid. We booked 2 weeks out. The host, a man named Dario, confirmed quickly, sent us a time and a dock location for the pickup, and that was it. Connor was already talking about what he was going to cook. Nate had found a playlist. I packed sunscreen and a paperback and told myself I was going to actually relax, for once. Dario was waiting at the dock when we arrived. He was older than I'd expected, late 60s maybe, weathered in that way coastal people get, like the salt has worked its way into the skin over decades. He was polite, quiet. He helped us load our bags into the boat without saying much, and for most of the crossing, he kept his eyes on the water. The island appeared out of the blue like something from a painting. Small, maybe a kilometer, end to end, densely covered in pine and scrub, with the house visible through the trees as we came around the southern point. It was beautiful, I'll give it that. Whatever else I have to say about that place, it was beautiful. Dario tied up the boat and carried 2 of our bags to the house. He showed us the kitchen, the bedrooms, the terrace. He was thorough, professional. And at the end of the tour, he stood in the doorway of the main room, and he told us one thing. He said, "The boat comes on Thursday. That is the resupply day. Other than Thursday, the boat does not come." Connor asked if we could call him if we needed anything before then. Dario looked at him for a moment. Then he said, "The signal here is not reliable, but you will not need anything. Everything you need is here." He left. We stood on the terrace and watched the boat shrink across the water until it disappeared. Nate opened a beer. "Right," he said. "Paradise." I stood at the edge of the terrace and looked down at the water. Still, perfectly still, not a ripple. It was the first time I felt it, just a small thing, a quiet wrong note, the kind your body registers before your brain catches up. I couldn't have told you what it was. I just felt it. I went inside and helped Connor unpack. The first day was everything the listing promised. We swam, we ate well, We sat on the terrace until the sun went down, and the sky turned every color it knows how to turn over open water. Connor was in the best mood I'd seen him in for months. Nate burned his arm on the grill and spent an hour pretending it didn't hurt. I read 40 pages of my book and felt my shoulders finally drop. Night 1. I slept better than I had in months. Night 2 was different. I woke at some point after midnight. I didn't check the time. I wish I had, to the sound of the terrace door. The old wooden kind that scrapes when it opens. You can't miss it. I lay still for a moment, thinking Connor or Nate was getting water. The scrape. Then footsteps on the stone outside. Then nothing. I got up and went to the window. Connor was standing at the end of the dock, just standing there, arms at his sides, looking out at the water. The sea was completely black. No moon that night, just stars and darkness. And Connor, standing at the very edge of the dock, completely still. I called his name through the glass. He didn't move. I went outside. I walked to the dock, and I put my hand on his shoulder. He turned, slowly, like someone coming back from somewhere, far away. His eyes were open, but there was a second where they weren't quite focused. Then they cleared, and he frowned, and he said, "What are we doing out here?" I told him he'd walked out in his sleep. He didn't remember it at all. We went back inside. I lay in bed for a long time, watching the ceiling. Through the window, I could see the dock, empty now, and past it, the black water. And just before I fell asleep, I thought I saw something beneath the surface. A shape, pale, slow-moving, maybe 10 feet down. A fish, a reflection of something. I was half asleep. I told myself that. I told myself that for another 2 days. By day 3, Connor was different. Not dramatically, not in a way that would have been easy to name. He was quieter. He ate less. He kept finding reasons to be near the water, sitting on the dock for hours, sometimes just standing at the terrace railing, staring out. Twice, I caught him watching the water with an expression I didn't have a word for. Not peace, something older than peace, like recognition. That night, I stayed awake, and I heard the terrace door again. I didn't get up this time. I don't know why. I just lay there listening to his footsteps on the stone, and the soft sound of the dock boards flexing under his weight, and then silence. 10 minutes later, he came back in and went to his room. In the morning, I asked him about it directly. He said he hadn't left his room. He wasn't lying. I could tell. He genuinely didn't remember. Nate disappeared on day 4. He'd been fine at lunch, himself, easy, making jokes about Connor's blank staring. After lunch, he said he was going for a swim and grabbed his towel. I was on the terrace with my book. I heard him go down the garden toward the water. I didn't hear him come back. An hour passed. I went to look for him. His towel was on the rock at the water's edge. His shoes were beside it. The water in front of the rock was still and empty. I called his name until my voice was hoarse. I walked the entire perimeter of the island twice. I went back to the dock and looked out at the sea in every direction. Nothing. Connor came and stood beside me after a while. He looked at the water where Nate's towel was, and he said, quietly, almost to himself, "He went in." "What do you mean he went in?" I said. Connor didn't answer. He just looked at the water. Thursday came, and the boat didn't. I stood on the dock from 7 in the morning until the sun started to drop, watching the water between the island and the mainland. Nothing came. I tried my phone every hour, no signal, just like Dario had said. I went through every room in the house, looking for a radio, a phone, anything. There was nothing. That night, Connor walked into the sea. I was watching. I'd been watching every night since Nate disappeared, sitting at the terrace door with it propped open, not sleeping. I saw him come out of his room, cross the terrace, walk down the garden. He didn't hesitate at the water. He didn't slow down. He walked in like a man walking through a door, he'd walked through 1,000 times. I ran. I got to the water and I went in after him. The cold hit me like something physical. I grabbed for him in the dark, got fabric, then nothing. Then the water was just water, and Connor was gone. I stood chest deep in the sea in the middle of the night, and I understood what this place was. I'd gone back through the reviews on my phone in the days since Nate disappeared, reading them differently now. We never wanted to leave. That phrase in 3 separate reviews, "The water is unlike anything I've ever seen." I felt completely at peace by the end. And there, in a review from 4 years ago, one line I'd skipped over the first time. We lost track of time entirely. By day 4, it felt like the island was part of us. Nobody mentioned leaving. Not one review described the journey home. I didn't sleep that night. I spent it in the kitchen, going through every cupboard, every drawer, until I found what I was looking for at the back of the utility room, a small outboard motor, old but intact, and the inflatable dinghy it belonged to. I didn't know how to use an outboard motor. I'd never tried. By the time the sky was starting to get light, I'd taught myself enough. I inflated the dinghy on the dock in the gray pre-dawn. I loaded it with water and my bag and my phone. I didn't let myself look at the sea. I pulled the cord on the motor for 11 minutes before it caught. I crossed 4 miles of open Adriatic in a 2-person inflatable dinghy, and I didn't look back once. I docked at a small marina on the mainland, and I sat on the stone quay for a long time before I was able to stand up. I went to the local police that morning. They contacted the Coast Guard. They searched the island and the surrounding water for 4 days. They found Dario. He was located at an address in Split. Claimed he had no record of booking us, no record of the listing, no knowledge of a private island at those coordinates. When the Coast Guard checked the listing, it was gone. They found the house. They found Nate's towel on the rock. They found Connor's shoes beside the terrace door. They found no one in the water. The case is open. It has been open for 11 months. I don't go near the sea anymore. I live inland now, far from any coast. I haven't booked a holiday since. But sometimes, when I'm somewhere quiet and the air is still, I think about that water when we arrived. How clear it was, how perfect, how you could see all the way to the bottom. And I wonder what was down there, looking up at us, even then. If you've stayed somewhere that felt too perfect, too quiet, too still, like the place itself was watching you, I want to hear about it. Leave it in the comments. I read every one. And to Connor and Nate, wherever you are, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I didn't pull you back from the water. I think about the dock every single night.